I'm David, reading for writer Jordan Rameh. All I could really think while I was watching the 40-minute long gameplay breakdown for Saints Row was, this looks okay. It definitely doesn't seem like a bad game, it actually seems to be perfectly sound in terms of gameplay, but nothing about Saints Row looks all that interesting. Granted, I am basing this opinion only on what I saw because I didn't actually get the chance to play the game during the preview, so take this with a grain of salt. Saints Row could actually feel a lot better than it looks, but right now, it looks mediocre. As I watched developer Volition dissect its latest open-world action-adventure title, the gameplay all seemed uninspiringly familiar for the franchise. I've seen Volition make this game before. 2022 Saints Row looks a whole lot like 2011 Saints Row the Third, but prettier. The brand new setting and various new characters at least hint at the potential exploration of intriguingly fresh stories, but on first glance anyway, the Southwest United States-Inspired Santo lleso seems to be unfortunately underutilized. In Saints Row, you play as the former member of a private military corporation organization called Marshall Defense Industries. You're now rooming with talented driver Nina, DJ Kevin, and wannabe business entrepreneur Eli. Like you, Nina and Kevin are former gang members. Nina used to ride with the car-obsessed and fitness-oriented Los Panteros, while Kevin fought alongside the nightlife-loving and violently anarchist group known as the Idols. Eli, meanwhile, is just a smart guy trying to use his business sense to turn a profit in the city.
You are a different kind of cat, Eli.
What can I say? The world is full of uninteresting people, and I'm not going to be one of them.
Tired of pulling off small-time robberies and crimes to pay rent, the four decide to claim power for themselves and form a fourth Santo lleso gang, the Saints. This latest Saints Row is a reboot of the franchise. The series hasn't seen the release of a new mainline entry since 2013 Saints Row 4. While Saints Row started out as an open world game akin to Grand Theft Auto 3, each subsequent entry got goofier and weirder, culminating in Saints Row 4 where you parlayed your role in stopping a nuclear attack on the United States by becoming the country's next president and then fighting off an alien invasion from a Matrix-inspired virtual reality. This new Saints Row steps back from those more fantastical sci-fi and absurdist elements the series embraced, returning to the relatively more grounded storylines and gameplay seen in the first two Saints Row games. Unfortunately, that has seemingly translated into a by-the-numbers open-world crime game. Based on the presentation that I saw, it looks like Saints Row is just a series of loops. You go to your gang's hideout, figure out what you want to do next, jump in your car, drive to a point on your map, complete the mission, and then just return to base to pick the next mission. The world itself doesn't seem to react to you, beyond, the cops attacking you if you draw too much heat, and the game features the same handful of missions that the Saints Row games have always had, like cause a certain amount of damage in a limited time, or fly to the bad guy's base and blow it up. Like, as you complete these tasks, you level up and you unlock new skills and you earn money to spend on more outfits and weapons, which you can then bring into more missions like the one you just completed, only harder. And you never actually need to understand the lay of the land or take note of the scenery because the world is one of destinations to go to and boxes to check. Combat seems like it could be pretty fun, as it mixes in unorthodox weapons alongside more traditional firearms. There's nothing quite as extravagant as what was seen in Saints Row the Third and Saints Row 4, but there are a few cool toys like a device that allows you to shoot through walls, and a football that latches onto enemies and sends them flying into the air. But I'm worried that combat could get stale after a while. I watched what combat looked like against both the Los Panteros and the Idols, and it seemed like the same run and gun strategy worked for both gangs, despite their members being quite visually different. And to my annoyance, it seems like your character has the unfortunate habit of repeating the same quips in combat over and over. While watching the presentation, there was a moment where the playable character was fighting the Los Panteros who had just stripped her car, and during that minute-long fight, she repeated how she was mad because she needed that car at least 3 times. To top it all off, Nina kept offering the same feedback during the fight several times too. It was like an unwanted throwback to the early 2010s when every action-adventure game did that. I'd forgive such a traditional gameplay loop and outdated features if Saints Row at least did something interesting with its mechanics or mission structure, but the game doesn't seem to substantially build upon any aspect of the series formula. There are more guns to buy and types of perks to unlock, but combat is still primarily a third-person shooter against bullet-spongy enemies who just sort of rush you without a plan. There are absurd side missions dotting the map, but they all appear to center around blowing stuff up or shooting from the passenger seat of a car while an ally drives you around and talks to you about something. And the brand new means of navigation, like the wingsuit, aren't entirely novel, as they seem to play a lot like the superpowers in Saints Row 4. In the end, this is a game about steadily taking control of a city by increasing your influence throughout several districts, each of which is divided up at the start of the game by the other gangs. You know, just like pretty much every other Saints Row game. If it wasn't for the graphics, this new Saints Row would seem like a game I had played almost 10 years ago. Now let me be clear, I don't think a new Saints Row has to be completely different from its predecessors in order for the series to be relevant in 2022. But the lack of any sort of apparent evolution to the franchise's mechanics and gameplay, well, that leaves it looking dated. I think the game may struggle with its narrative tone as well. Volition is aiming for a story and gameplay that feels wackier than Saints Row 2, but less so than Saints Row the Third. The problem then becomes that the game is too playful for a compelling dramatization of 4 college-aged adults building a criminal empire, and at the same time it's so serious that it doesn't quite deliver enough laughs to be a comedy. If you're gonna do a story like that, think Fast and Furious movie, you gotta have compelling characters and relationships that are worth giving a damn about. And Saints Row's main cast has just not impressed me so far. Your new allies all seem to resemble previous Saint Row characters as well. Mina's brash attitude and quick temper is reminiscent of Shandy, Kevin's energetic hot-headedness and love of violence is a lot like Gat, and Eli's dry sarcasm and non-gang background and more supportive role within the team makes him just like Kinsey. My hope is that these early comparisons are a means of eventually subverting players' expectations, encouraging longtime Saints Row fans to embrace a brand new variation of the Saints with a comforting familiarity before then presenting the presumably welcome surprise of exploring how these Saints are refreshingly different. But there's really no way of knowing whether that's the case until the game actually comes out. So far, this feels like territory we've covered before. This new Saints Row seems to most differentiate itself with its setting. Santo Lleso is inspired by the southwestern United States, so there are still skyscrapers, but much of the architecture outside the core of the city is smaller and features more Mexican and Spanish-inspired designs. The area features locations that are noticeably less urban as well, with several districts located in the outskirts of a massive desert. And everything is a lot more vibrant with a brighter color palette of oranges, yellows, and reds. It's here in this new setting that Saints Row should show the most intriguing potential, the developers touching on a completely different culture, presenting the possibility for new types of stories, gang activities, musical expression, and player interaction to freshen up a nearly 2 decades old franchise. And though I haven't been convinced Volition has actually done that here, I can tell that a good deal of effort went into creating the set dressing for Saints Row's story. Regardless, in the end, it all ties back around to my initial thought of the game, that it looks okay. We'll know for sure soon enough, even after being delayed, but Saints Row is now scheduled to release later this year, launching for Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, PS5, PS4, and PC on August 23rd.